It's our Digital Wednesday, and as promised, we are continuing with our drawing of Omega Red. I've only added one thing as far as the main image goes, this little kind of puff of like cold, and since he's from Russia, it's usually seen him in a cold environment. What I did do is just go ahead and re-ink this. You can see from the original I have just simply traced over and re-inked it. So if you want to, you can take a screenshot of this and trace over it if you want it to be exactly like, or you can just trace it yourself. The other thing you can do is take a screenshot of this here. What I got is two layers, one with a lighter tone of tree silhouettes, and then one's in the front. So I'm going to have them standing in kind of a cold weather, like forest environment. So if you want to take a screenshot of this and then trace that, and then a screenshot of this and trace that, and just kind of overlay them over each other so they look like that. But I'm going to take those out for now because we're going to work on the background later. What I'm going to do is go ahead and select the image with my magic wand tool. I want to make sure I get these little in between spaces too, the negative space. And we'll zoom out a little bit, make sure we got everything. So we're going to get this under piece here. Okay, now I don't want to make a mask with this just yet. What I want to do is go to select, inverse, and then I can come underneath and we'll just call this color. And again, I apologize for the crappy microphone situation. Like I said, for some reason, when I'm doing screen recordings, I can't use my other headset, so this one's not as good. So I do apologize for the kind of echoiness, but now that we have that selected and inverted and we have our color layer, we can just hit mask, and what that does is allows for me to color without messing up outside the lines here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and we're going to start with the red color on the uniform, and I'm going to go ahead and color that in, and you can see I'm on the wrong layer. But you can see it doesn't make me go outside the lines by coloring that in. Now I could go around and lasso all these areas, but I personally have found that I'm just not as fast doing that. It takes a while to get everything perfect, so I just simply just go in and like to paint things just right offhand like that. Now inside the armor right here in the corner will be red. The rest of that will be kind of a gray tone. Down here is the belt strap, so I don't want to touch that. So I am simply just going to come in here and paint the rest of the body. So anywhere that there's not a strap, I'm going to leave that non-red. And the rest, we'll get that red coat in there. So like I said, I wish there was a faster way for me to do this, but I've just found if I sat here the whole time lassoing around and doing separate layers, as far as a tutorial video goes, it takes even longer. So now you could ask, like, well, why don't you just like select inside those areas? Because it does this weird thing, like even if you adjust the selection area, it does this weird thing where it doesn't completely cover the edges. So I have to end up going in and manually painting over stuff anyway. So like I said, it just saves a lot more time doing it this way. But where it would, come in handy is like if you wanted to, you could pre-prep. So like you could put like a basic gray all in here and then go and lasso out those areas and just create new layers for each area. That way they don't interact and interfere with each other. Again, I don't find that it takes that long to go in and adjust and just paint over an area that I've accidentally painted over. It doesn't need to be this red, so like these little splotches of red in the hair and stuff, it doesn't take that long to fix, so I'm not overly stressed about it usually, just painting it over it. So inside the armor here we have some red, and then the last place that'll have red will be um, the headband with the Omega symbol on it. Okay, so we'll just finish that up. It'll be a little easier when I get to the metallic stuff because they're all pretty much the same color. Um, so we'll just color in that headband, leave the Omega symbol alone. Okay. So now I can come in and we can find, I'm going to go into kind of the blue-gray area, and we're going to do this lighter color. See what that looks like. What I'm going to do, let's go ahead and make the background darker. That way I can see the colors I'm working with here. And again, because I have that mask on, I don't have to worry about too much when I get to these outer regions of how I color those in. It can be a little bit more loose and sloppy until I get to this kind of inside area. So I'm going to do, for right now, I'm just going to fill in with this color. And what I'm probably going to do, just because I want a slight difference between the two, switch back to the blue. I want a little bit brighter, like that. And then I'll do the body armor or something darker. So on his tendrils, and again, if I need to switch colors, I can hold Alt and pick that color back. And again, my reasoning for darkening the background is just so that these lighter grays wouldn't blend in with the other lighter grays that I already have on there. Okay, so that takes care of those tendrils. Let's go ahead and hit up this side where we get a little bit more free reign to be sloppy because it's not really touching anything, so it won't take as long until we get up here to the hair and the face. And you want to kind of slow down a little bit so you don't go outside the line. Again, once I get here to the hair, I'm going to slow down. And I am just using, you can see I missed a spot here. So watch, if you want to, just, so you can keep things the same. What I can do is I can go ahead and I can delete the mask by selecting it. And I can come back to the lines layer, we can repick all this stuff, and then I make sure that I get inside these areas again. And come back down here to color, select inverse, hit the mask. And we have ourselves a new mask on there. So now I won't go outside the lines in there. It's just an easy quick fix. Okay. So now that I have that, I can come in here to a darker armor tone. I want to keep it in that blue. And we can see what that looks like. Okay, so that's good. So it's a little bit darker. And I'm just going to hit up these belt pieces. Now, traditionally, he does not have any like black in there, but I'm going to change some stuff up just so that it's not all just one base color. So like the little belt strap, I will probably make black. And these outer edges, and then that kind of middle intersection, this is part of the armor. This should actually be red right in there. And again, I can kind of pick what colors go where on my own. You could do the whole thing silver if you wanted to. But again, I plan on adding more to the image. Okay, we get this little metal strap there. Okay, and then down in here, we're probably going to go for black in there, but I'm going to go silver with the rest of this. Same here too. You see how I got this kind of like inner ridge right there? We're going to make that black as well. So it should just be this outer part here. No, I don't need to erase it. I want to make sure I don't forget that this is going to be that black area. And it won't be a solid black. It'll be more like a charcoal, one that we can still put shadows on. Finish filling that in. Now the omega symbol will also get this color as well. Fill that in there. And right here. I'm going to make that black over there. This is actually red too. I'm not sure why I didn't color that in. Now a couple things I want to do first. I'm going to come back, switch to this line. I completely forgot to, and I'm using a brush size of 15. So I want to denote that this is hair in here as well as here too. Just double check. It's going to come out this way. And that there is like where the neck is. So I'm going to fill in this area some. And do like that shape there. Then we can switch back and go back to my color layer. Let's just double check, make sure I got all with this metal strap here. And then, like I said, up here on the head, I'm going to fill that in. And then I completely forgot, but his little ponytail holder is also red. Alright, so now I'm going to go to kind of like a slightly black, and let's see how dark it gets us. So just dark enough that it looks black, and we can still put a shadow on if need be, that it'll, show up with the difference in there. So I'm just going to go through and we're going to hit up these areas that need to have black. Again, traditionally you don't really find too much black on him. It's usually just the white and red, but again, I'm just going for a little detail difference on this. So it's completely up to you if you want to put, just all silver. That's completely up to you. It's your art. You do what you want. Sure. There you go. I'll get this back piece here. Okay, and then we'll come up this way. And again, I could have went an easier route on how to draw his armor and not put as much detail in there, but I was just really trying to push myself with this image. Because again, he's my favorite villain out of all of Marvel. Don't ask me why. Everybody would probably usually rate him as being kind of bland or one note, but I just think it's a mixture of his personality of not really caring. Like, he's there to do a job and he does it. There's no nuance to it. And then just his design in general, especially like the way, think of it kind of like images you see of like Dr. Octopus or something, where just having those tendrils go everywhere can make a really cool picture. So as far as style and design goes, it kind of puts him over the top for me. But again, it's just my personal choice. I'm sure some people are probably going, really, Omega Red, not Thanos, not all these other people, not Magneto. Now Magneto's my number two, so he's close. But as far as overall design, concept, and character, that's why I like him the most. But that's neither here nor there. Everybody's gonna like what everybody's gonna like. Now this particular strap here, we're making black. And what my idea was this strap kind of goes down and wraps around his leg, allows him to carry, another weapon as a holster of some kind. So it could be, he's created by the Russian government to do nefarious things. So I just imagined he could have a knife or something to strap to it. Um, so if you're wondering why there's this random black strap, that's what it's for. Alright, so color that in. Fix up these areas that I colored over. Let's see, anywhere else. Alright, and then we're going to have the black metal. So like usually this part of his face is also that really light metal color. But again, I'm just trying to change things up to make it different from what everybody else does. And that's just an artist choice on my part. It does not have to be yours. Alright, so next thing we're going to do is his hair color. Now, this can be a bit tricky because he's got blonde hair, but you want to kind of find a color that's not too yellow, but is at the same time. I know that's confusing. So I'm trying to find a good balance here of a blonde that's not too dark. So we'll go with this for now. If I want to make any adjustments, I can do that later. So if you're curious about the color, RGB is 243, 206, and 73. Just in case you were wondering. But just kind of find something similar to this. Blonde hair has always been a struggle to find a good color for. That's why sometimes, like in my comics, you'll barely see any blonde haired characters just because it's difficult for me color wise just to find something that works, that looks good. So we're going to take our time through these thin areas. Just make sure we don't go outside. And we'll get that little bit of hair right here. And I'm just going to stay down in this area so I can knock all those out. It's a little bit of a gap right there. I probably should have picked inside there, but it's not that hard to fix an area that small. Alright, so we're almost done. And then that'll just leave us with the skin. I'm keeping my brush size small just so I don't bleed over into the other colors too much by having it be too wide. Okay, so that takes care of the hair. Now the tricky part here is the skin tone. Now he's been depicted in many different ways as to what kind of a skin tone. Um, Anywhere from being almost pure white to almost like a grayed out skin color. But either way, it's supposed to be because like he's essentially dead anyway. So if you want to do the same, 204, 190, 172, I'm going to go with this kind of color. for the skin. And again, if I wanted to play around and make it all just the pure white color, I mean, I can go that route. It's just an easy, simple fix. So once I get all this filled in using a paint bucket, it becomes a lot more easier to manage. Now you have to be careful when some of your colors are close in tone and you try to use a paint bucket, it can bleed over into that and just change the whole thing. So you gotta kind of be careful a little bit when you do that. So again, since he's not really getting much blood pumping through his veins, everything's just kind of that pale color tone for him. Okay, and since I'm already here, I'm going to go ahead and switch to white. And then I'm going to put kind of a pinky flesh tone on the part where his gums are showing. And then just switch back to the skin tone. And we have one more area of skin after this tiny one. That's down here at the bicep. And once we filled that in, we pretty much have our color flats all done. And that will allow me to pull up the background. I did miss a spot back here with the gray. So let's pick that real quick by holding Alt. And one last thing that's kind of, because he has red eyes too, so we're gonna go for that color, but we're gonna make it a little bit brighter. Like that. Okay, so now if I pull up my background, I can still see, everything that's going on. And now, speaking of the background, what we want to do is I'm going to turn these two off. And I'm going to add a layer underneath that. Let's put color. And again, I'm going to come in these blues. And we're going to color in the snow. Again, if you're curious at the numbers, 236, 240, and 246. Just if you're curious. The background's not our central focus, so that's why I didn't put too much detail in it. And we're going to give it a background like sky type thing, but not as a traditional sky. It's going to be more of just like a faded thing to have back there, so it's not blank. We're going to use some airbrush effects to kind of get it to look hazy. Okay, so now that I have that colored in, I'm going to move in some so I can get better coverage in the areas that need it, and then any areas that I went over, I can clear out. Alright, so we can pull that back up. Let's also put color here. And we're going to do the same thing with the snowy breath, or the winter breath, because it's cold. Alright, now I'm going to go to the very bottom down here. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this, and we're going to put just background color, and we're going to use a gradient. Okay, so let's find one that's got our blues in here. Let's go with this first one for now. See, that's not dark enough. I want something more on the darker side. Let's see, reverse. Something more along the lines of that. Again, just for now, I can make adjustments at any point. Okay, and then we're going to go into the shading process. Okay, so I'm going to pick a new layer and call this shadows. And again, I don't have to reselect now. Now I can come down and hold command and hit my mask and it'll reselect all that stuff. I know I can get this small gap right here. Oops, that's the problem. I need to make sure I'm on my lines layer. And we can just mask that out. And now we have, since we have the mask on there, I can just simply come down. Let's make sure we set this to 50% for now. And we'll go to our paint bucket. And I can just fill that in. Okay. Now, I can use my eraser tool to kind of subtract the negative. So I'm keeping this top half exposed to the light. And again, because I have that mask, I don't have to worry too much about, how sloppy I'm erasing it out. Okay, so you can see how it's giving me light exposure now, so that's why I do it that way. Now with this, And the way that we have things turned, I can choose to either take this top route or keep to the outside. So what I'm going to do is, right here close to the body, I'm going to kind of curve out, leave a little bit of shadow. And we're going to do this side. We'll see how it looks. If we don't like it, we'll just do the opposite. Now, if you've watched my channel for any number of time, you know when it comes to my shading, I tend to lean more towards what looks cool as opposed to what's 100% lighting accurate. So if I'm killing you right now with the way that I'm doing some of this, I apologize. It's not my intent. Okay, so that looks good like that. So we'll leave that that way. We're also gonna hit up this edge here. Okay, and if I want to bring shadows back, what I'm doing is I'm just painting black back into those areas. Now, here it's a little bit more interesting because we have this curve. So we can adjust things if we need to, but I think this is going to work out if we just stay on top here. And I want kind of that shadow cast on the other tendril hitting that, so I'm going to leave that dark up there. Okay. So you can see our light exposure is now coming out. So certain areas, like here on the thigh, we're going to bring that back. Keep that close. And then I'm going to leave a slight hint of shadow underneath right here. Let's bring back that area with the hatching in it. There we go. Okay. And this whole front plate is exposed. I am going to expose it. And then let's bring back a tiny bit of shadow right there along the edge. Okay. And then we want to kind of think, select the belts kind of touching that. So we're going to go and leave some space for the shadow right here. Again, kind of using that inside part of the abdomen to keep shadow. course, this strap's exposed. See what that looks like, and then we can come down to here and expose a little bit more. You don't have to use this method if you just want to use a lasso tool, or hand paint it yourself, your shadows. That is another viable option, and you can definitely do that. I'm just always pulling back to make sure that things are looking good. Okay. So now that we have that done, let's do this region right here. And then since we're going to have some shadow cast here, I'll bring that back like that, and we'll expose a little bit right here, as well as right here. And this whole front side, we'll get some light exposure. You notice I'm leaving a little bit of shadow up underneath that belt. Okay, and I'm going to expose this here. Pour that top. Right in there. And let's get some of this here. I'm going to bring that shadow out just a little bit more, as well as the hairline, like that. Okay, now you would think I would expose some of this, but that's where I'm just going to do barely any exposure. And remember, there's many ways to color a comic. This is just the method that I do. Um, some people might be more into the painterly style of art, but that's not really my forte, or nor do I tend to use it. Okay, so we're starting to get more of it exposed. Let's do these straps here. And then here where the light's hitting, I want to kind of show that roundness a little bit. So I'm essentially just going to kind of cut it in half. that, just exposing the parts that would be exposed in the light. Okay, so now we have that. Let's see, let's do the same up here on the front. I want to kind of have this overlay from the strap there, and I'll leave that be. So let me fill that back in. Again, it's somewhat rounded, so we can leave a little bit of shadow in there. Same thing here. Leaving a little shadow right here at the overlay. Alright, so let's start exposing some light in here. And right here. Okay. Now, technically, our light source, we're having it come this way. We should, for this top part, be exposing all of that. I'm going to play with the lighting a little bit and maybe not expose all of it. Definitely this outer edge to a point. Okay, again, just always remember to pull back. See what it's looking like. I'm going to do a tiny bit of exposure, some light right here on that. Okay, same thing in here. We're going to use the edge of this. And you can see I'm kind of sticking close to the edge here, just because that's the way the light in my eyes is being cast. So if you're wondering why I'm erasing it out that way, it's just based off of feeling and look. I can always go back and add or take away from anything that I'm doing. Okay, so just put that in there that way. Again, pull back, looks nice. Now once I get down this area, we're gonna expose this section right here. I'm gonna leave that dark for now. And we're just going to see what this looks like. And then I'm going to expose a little bit of the edge right down there. Okay. So far so good as far as shadows go. I'm going to bring it back to this here. Let's do a tiny bit of edge exposure here. And because we have the tendril passing over, I'm going to block that off there. And we can let's kind of block off this back end here. Leave all that covered. Okay. And now we're going to expose the skin. Now this is kind of covering a little, so I am going to leave the shadow edge there. I'll fix that up. Let's see how that looks. Alright, we got some exposure. Rest blocked off. Now we can move up here towards the hair. Again, kind of looking to see shape of the shadow on there. See how it looks when it's all said and done, and make adjustments from there. Let's just continue to just hit the edge and kind of come out this way. Okay, now this is completely being covered by things, but we can expose a little in here. Just to give it a little bit more. Okay, and then that's that rotation here of the hair. So we're going to kind of go back with that. Let's go ahead and hit up this. Again, always go out and check and see where you're at. exposure right there. Let's kind of bring the shadow back, shorten that up. And continue on down. Here we go. Okay, now I can start working on the face and how much I want exposed. So let's go bring this back just a little right here under the chin. And bring it back this much. And maybe a tiny bit on the tooth right there. See, we'll expose the nose. Let's fix that shadow. Just trying to get it rounded enough that it looks like. There we go. Okay. So now we're going to come around the face. And I want the eyes exposed. Maybe with a little bit of shadow. Let's see what that looks like. Looks okay. And definitely right there on the forehead. Now we have this area that's passing in front. So I want to kind of have that hair shadow there. So see how I have it kind of somewhat exposed. Let's see what the face looks like. We'll get right back to this point. Bring a little shadow back right here. And bring the eyes back there. Again, we always pull back and look. Let's see how it's gone. Looks pretty good. Now let's do a cheek. There we go. And we'll start getting these metallic pieces on the face. Again, not too much exposure. Just enough. Um, Tiny bits right here. Alright, so now this piece here is kind of hanging over. So I want to expose that a little bit. Alright, and just a little bit right here. Let's see what that looks like here in a minute. So it's not bad. Let's just round this a little bit more instead of it being so straight. Just like that. And I mean, obviously, if you need to stop the video at any time to pause or catch up, that's fine. It's completely understandable. I want to start exposing a hair on top here. And just always, again, just pull back and see how things are looking. It's not too bad. Let's go and start rounding this one out. Alright. And this is the challenging part because we have this kind of curve over here. It's like an undercurve, so I can kind of mess with where you're supposed to put the lights at. Because you also have this area. So we kind of have to pick and choose a little bit. again, this is where it goes more towards the area of what looks cool and what does not. And that's kind of the issue we're running into here. So we're just going to try out different things and see what looks best. Alright, now let's expose the top here. Let's see what that looks like. It's not bad. And then of course we can just continue going from here. Ooh. We have a few spots. Here we can expose to the light. And that'll take care of that. Now I'm going to try using, well, let's go ahead and let's drop that below. I'm going to change that to 50 and keep it on black, and we're going to hit this underside here of his breath. Probably make it a little bigger just so it stands out a little bit more. There we go. Okay. So now we're going to try and we're going to add a group here. I'm going to try the method I used in another video of adding a rim light. And we're going to add in a gradient map. And we want a kind of blue tone, because I'm going for that moonlight look. Let's see here. Not sure why that's covering the whole thing like that. It shouldn't be. Let's just go with it for now and see what it does. I'm gonna set that as linear dodge. There we go. Now it shouldn't be altering the image too much. Let's see here. That shouldn't be doing that. Create a map. Yeah, that shouldn't be doing that. Not sure why it's doing that. Let's try again. So we're going to add in a group, add in a layer, make that black, add in our gradient map. Shouldn't be. Not sure why it's doing that. Yeah, it shouldn't be doing that at all. Let's go in here. Make sure. That's black. There we go. So you want to make sure it's black on there. Alright, now I can come in, change to a linear dodge, add, and just start coloring in. The white. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit Command on my mask layer to select on the shadow. Come in here and add a mask. And then as I start erasing, it should do. Edge light like that. Okay, so now gotta have that. I'm gonna go with a soft round brush. If I can find it. Try this one. See what that looks like. There we go. Okay, and I'm just gonna go around certain edges. And I'm just putting those reflective. So if you want to see it better, I can do it here. On the stomach region, and you can see it's adding in a little bit of rim light. So let's go ahead with that.
just add in that edge light in there. Now you don't have to cover the whole section. Um, it's just enough to give off that reflective illusion. And we could probably put some on these edges here. Let's thicken this one up just a little bit. See, we take away the edge a little bit more. Okay. And of course we'll do the same thing over here. Now the thing with the rim light, I don't want to do like everything. So like I don't want to come all the way over here inside the abs or anything. I'm just hitting up the edge because that's in the name. It's a rim light. It's just on the rim of the image. So we're just going to go through and hit those up. Same on the hair here. I'll probably make that smaller. And let's get some right inside of here. And we'll get a little bit on the strap in here. Get this edge. Like I said, I'm not going to move too far inward. I'm going to keep it just enough that it's just showing the reflection. Because I'm going for kind of like a blue moonlight look. Okay. So if we wanted to make any changes or add anything, we could do that. Let's go ahead and finish up these here. And just keep working our way through. Like I said, a lot of this stuff, like I'm personally, I'm learning all the time, so I'm never gonna sit here and tell you that I'm an expert at this stuff. I always learn something new every week, different things to try and experiment, and that's honestly how you should be. I mean, if you're watching me and you're learning stuff, maybe you tried something different and it looked better, and then you can let me know. We can share this information with each other. that's the purpose of this channel, is you can watch me go through my trials and errors and things that work and don't work. And just go from there on what you think is best, or if you think my method worked out good and looks good, then you can let me know that too. Um, I'm not opposed to criticism. But as I said in the previous video, good art takes time. So if you're actually sitting here going through it and seeing the time that it takes to do something, get it to look good, you're just going to get better because of it. There's really no, quick answer to things on how to get something to look good. You're not going to knock something out in 10 minutes and call it a day. Like, this video is shaping up to be a couple hours, and I'm honestly surprised if anybody's still here hanging out. But that's just part of art. I know when I watched YouTube, trying to learn some things, it was always a time-lapsed video, going full speed and not really explaining what kind of brushes they're using. Like me, I told you I'm right now using a soft round brush. Nothing fancy. So far, all I've used is a soft round and hard round brushes and just a simple eraser. I haven't done anything else crazy, you know. It's honestly not really necessary. Let's take this shadow. We want to get this in too. And then I can just come back up to this layer. So you can see how it's a subtle thing, but it's helping, kind of settle the image as far as, the reflections and stuff go. And of course, you can try different brushes. You can try like an airbrush. There are other uh, pressurized soft round brushes that you can use as well. Again, just in certain areas. Let's go ahead and add on here on the chest. I know I said I wasn't going to, but sometimes I like to, like I said, just experiment. And see how things go. Let's see what that looks like. Yeah, so we could do that there. That of course also means to keep it, somewhat even. I want to do it on this side as well. looks like. Okay, so down in here, let's see what that looks like. Let's take it all the way back. There we go. And then there's certain areas. Let's just hit up this top portion here. See what that looks like. Um, so like certain areas in here, right? I can come in. We don't have to put that much, but just hit up that top edge. And it'll get, that slight bit of edge reflection. Do one more right here. Again, we can see what that looks like. And then, of course, we have these edges here. Hit up these. Okay. Now, if you notice, what I haven't done is anything really to this front area yet, and there's a reason for that. We're going to be giving the illusion of depth again. Since it's so close, I'm going to actually make it blur. So for now, we'll just come back and finish up our hair. So you can see I'm sticking kind of close to the edge on this. Um, I mean, I could leave the hair alone and not really put it on there. But I think since we're hitting up most of the image with it, it's going to be, somewhat in tune and beneficial to have it on there. And like I said, if we don't like it by the end, we can just simply take it off of there. So one of the nice things working digitally is you make a mistake, I can just easily go in and fix something without completely affecting the entire picture. I just want to see what this looks like on his skin. Yeah, that works. Because I can honestly say there's several times where I don't think I've ever made like any two artworks the same way. There's always something that needs some kind of adjustment to it. That's different from the last one. Something off about the hair. I don't think I'm really caring for it too much. So what we'll do, we'll leave the hair be. So like I said, we can get rid of things easily digitally. So again, another positive aspect of it. Um, and it may seem off, but I just don't feel like the highlights in the hair are really doing the image any justice. So just gonna leave it out of there. Okay, and let's take care of the skin over here, as well as a few of these armor edge pieces. Uh, let's see, where was I? Yep, the arm. Alright, so let's maybe hit up this eye. Make the nose one a little bigger. See what that looks like. Yeah, that's good. Okay, so I'm going to close this up. And we're going to call this rim light. Okay. Now remember I said I wanted to do like an effect with the front up here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all of this here. So I'm just going to click on lines, hit shift, and click down on color. Then I'm going to hit Command J. What that does is copy all those layers, and I'm going to move it up here. Above that, let me go right here above my smoky breath layer. Make sure there's nothing above that. One more. Okay. Now, what I can do, I can turn off all three of those, right? And then I can simply go like this. So watch, I'm going to come in here and start erasing. As well as any of the color and shadow. And you'll see the method to my madness here in a minute. So if you notice, I am not touching this layer that is close to me of the tendrils. So I'm leaving these forward tendrils alone. And again, for good reason. And I'm trying not to go inside the lines on them. And again, that's why I didn't put any of the rim lights on there yet. Next, we'll go with the color layer. So essentially what we're going to do is we're going to add a blur effect. Now I could have just selected around the region, but I have found it tends to grab more when you do that than what you would like it to do. It kind of messes up the whole picture. So again, I'm sure there's a YouTube video that somebody would say, yeah, just simply use the lasso tool and go around. Yeah, well, I've tried it
And for me personally, not for everybody, but for me, it does not work. And of course, it could just be something with my computer. Very aware of that. Let's turn off the background layers as well. Finish erasing all this. So essentially by making this copy, I have prevented it from being messed with on the bottom version of it. Okay, and we'll go to the lines layer and shadows and just make sure we get all of that off of there. I'm just switching back and forth between the layers, making sure I get everything. You see I'm being very careful not to touch the tendril lines as much as possible. So see, I got too close there. So many shadow lines are getting me. And this one here. Okay. So now we can come in here, get all the rest of the color. Alright. So now that I have that there, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and turn those back off. I'm going to come back to these ones here. And I'm going to go through the same process. And I'm just going to erase out what is visibly seen, so like just hitting up the edge. So I'm going to kind of keep the outside edge of it.
You'll see why in a minute. When we kind of put a blur on it a little bit, it's going to cause it to kind of shift and expose what's behind it. And by doing that, we'll end up messing up the whole picture. So let's do background back in place. We're going to turn this back on. And now I can pick this here. Actually, we have to do it one at a time. So we're going to filter, blur. We're going to do a Gaussian blur. Okay, so we're going to hold that at 10 for right now. And we're going to do the same thing. So I can just go back and hit Gaussian blur. It'll put the same effect on there. Like that. Okay, so you can see how by adding this blur effect, it causes us to focus more on this area. Now what I can do is I can come in here and go back. Or we'll probably kick it up back to 15. And one more. There we go. So now we have some depth to our image. Alright, but now we need those rim lights. Right, so I can just take this, go Command J again. I've copied it. I can turn that off. And I can come in here. And I can erase all of those rim lights. Okay, I'm going to turn the bottom ones back on. Come up to this layer, keeping everything the same. Right, and come in here, and I can put that rim line in there. Now right now it's solid, but what we can do is blur them out as well. Now we have that little bit of shadow. I can put any there. Okay, I'm almost done. Let's finish putting in this last bit. You notice I'm not being so precise with it, just because it's just going to get blurred out anyway. So it's not a necessity. Let's take this last part right here, right? Okay, so now I can take the group itself. I should say that layer I was on, my bad. Let's put a Gaussian blur on that. Okay. And I'm going to do that for all of the layers within that group to include the gradient map. So there. You can see now it's blurred. And we have everything that we need. So let's do the background now. Now with these trees here in the front, I'm okay with what I have. But again, I'm going to add that same kind of effect as we're going back. So I'm going to pick this layer here and just add a Gaussian blur to it. And you can see it's faded out the trees a little bit more. Let's go back and let's add a little bit more to it. Let's try 20. There we go. Okay. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use that same rim light layer, add in another one, let's see what we can get from playing around with the trees. Excuse me. Alright, let's get these last few. And then we can start working on fog and snow. Okay. So, next thing we want to do is we want to cause kind of a little bit of a fog effect. So what I can do is we can create, let me turn this down. I'm going to go above this background layer. Okay. I'm just going to call this fog 1. And we have that little bit of a blue twinge. And what I can do is you can find airbrushes all online. So just download an airbrush tool. And I'm trying to find mine. Okay. So first thing I can do is cause this little bit of mist right inside of here. Right, just to give us a little bit of haze. Okay. And then I can kind of drop down in color just a tad and add a little bit more of that down here towards the front. Okay, and then I can go behind those trees and we can say
fog 2. And we'll do the same thing. Kind of going in front. And then we can go above. Take that color up some. And the fog below. Then I'm going to go above that. And we're just going to call that fog 3. Let's take that to a darker tone. See what we can get out of this. Alright, so if you're curious about that color, it's 166, 180, 200. Alright, so now comes the snow. Now, the first thing we're going to do is put it behind, right? So I'm going to go right underneath the fog 1, and I'm just going to say snow back. And then we're going to find ourselves a brush that will allow for some snow. So let me try this sparkle tool. Might be a little too bright. So I have that option with the sparkle tool. Now I can also go to like a splatter brush. Like I have a toothbrush type tool. That's a little too much. Let's try. Now this Kyle's brush pack has a lot of stuff in it, and it's, turn the marble off. So let's see if there's a snow brush in here. So like see there's a snowfall mix. Snow dusting. And then we have this one. Let's test this one out. Let's see how that looks. A little bit bigger. So see, those are more like snowflakes. That's not what I'm going for. So let's do a snow mix. Let's see what that looks like. Let's try one more. Okay, so that's one, and then I can come up here and add a new layer. We'll call this snow front. And then I'm going to switch back to that sparkle brush I made. And then we're going to try one more thing, because I may just leave it as is, like this. We're going to try one more thing. I'm going to do gradient. Use this. Let's try overlay. Just want to see what it looks like. Twenty-five. See what the difference between 25 and 30. Like that. And then I am going to try one more thing. Just bear with me. Inner glow white, outer glow red. And I'm just going to try this. Here we go. Now, here's one last option before we go. You can, if you want, you can add a new layer, and you can set that also to 50. You can call it shadows 2. And what you can do is some of these areas, if you wanted to, you could hit them up even darker. To give more gradients, if you will, to your image. So I'm just going to show you what that looks like. So you can see it's just adding that little extra bit of line weight and shadow weight. So again, it's completely up to you. You can see what the difference is between the two. It just adds a little extra. So it's completely up to you whether or not you want to use that. Other than that, I know this was a long video. I appreciate you hanging out the whole time if you did. Other than that, I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Leave a comment. Let me know what you want to see next. You guys run this channel, not me, and I really need input. So let me know. Other than that, thanks for stopping by. Have a great day, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.